don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it.
And now, live from Canton, Ohio.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
It's the Schiffer Report.
Obama is a radical communist, and I think it's becoming clear. That's what I told people in Illinois, and now everybody realizes it's true. The man is an abomination. He is someone who has actually advocated infanticide.
With your host, Paul Schiffer.
I will be proud to lead you wonderful guys into battle anytime, anywhere.
Opposing socialism.
Some crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
Exposing radical Islam and all of the enemies of America.
Stand by for action.
And welcome to the Schiffer Report. I'm your host, Paul Schiffer, and on tonight's broadcast, this is actually going to be part 2 of a 6-part series, continuing on from this past Monday, zeroing in on Barack Obama and all of the communists that he is associated with in his lifetime, including his political formative years, early on in the 80s when he went to college and associated with communists and many other groups, radical Muslims, et cetera, et cetera. Also, we're going to focus in on George Soros, who's the multi-billionaire philanthropist who has been the money machine behind Obama for many, many years. He's one of the ones that sought Obama out and has been financing him at least since the year he started running for president. And there are many other people in this picture that we're going to focus in on tonight, or try to. There are people connected with the Communist Weather Underground. That was a communist terrorist group back in the late 1960s, early 70s that wreaked havoc across the country. They're made up of diehard Marxist-Leninists, and these people include William Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, a husband and wife team, who are radical, avowed communists, and they are also people who are very close to the President of the United States. And then there's Mark Rudd, who is a communist agitator who made many trips to communist Cuba, and many, many other people that number in the dozens, folks. And a lot of this is documented in a new book that just came out by conservative blogger Trevor Loudon from New Zealand. He has a new book out. We've been talking about it a little bit here in the Schiffer Report. It's called Barack Obama and the Enemies Within. Well, very quickly, in case you missed Monday's broadcast, last Thursday, October 27th, myself and a team of about 8 other people, including the head of the Stark County Tea Party Patriots group, Bob Bonheimer. He's a regular in the Schiffer Report, by the way. We went down to D.C., invited guests of Cliff Kincaid of Accuracy in Media. He also has another group called USA Survival, usasurvival.org. I suggest checking that website out. Anyway, he had a 6-hour conference with some conservative leaders there who had all of the information and all the facts on George Soros, everything he's doing to undermine America, to undermine our culture. And this guy, he's a multi-billionaire, 7th richest man in America, 22nd richest man in the world. He's been pumping over $500 million a year of his own money. And that's just what we can see from basic accounting and, different experts who have checked and seen how much money he throws into his foundations, think tanks, 501c3s. By the way, George Soros runs at least 150 left-wing liberal socialist groups promoting everything from abortion on demand to gay marriage to the legalization of drugs. This man stands for everything that's bad in this country now. He's trying to undermine our economy, destroy our culture. He hates Christians, and even though he's Jewish, he was born in Hungary, he's a Hungarian Jew, he's an atheist who despises Israel, despises Christians and Jews. This man is throwing his money around and funding every bad group in this country and also globally. He's also been known for undermining the economies of different nations around the world. Yes, it's hard to believe that one man can have that much power. And, of course, you can listen to all of this when Cliff Kincade is on at 7 p.m. tonight. The phone lines are open. If you'd like to join us, if you have a question or comment pertaining to our subject matter tonight, feel free to call anytime at 330-492-6881. That's 330-492-6881. If you're listening in the Tuscarawas County area, call us toll-free at 330-874-2424. Again, Tuscarawas County's number is 330-874-2424. You're listening to the Schiffer Report, exclusively heard on WNPQ every Mondays and Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We've been on about 7 months now. Hope to continue, Lord willing, with this message of truth, exposing the threat to our country, unfortunately coming from within. I'm looking at something Cliff Kincade used when he was giving his portion of the presentation last Thursday in Washington, D.C. It's a 40-page paper called Obama's Master, George Soros, Supporting America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. And I want to go into a little bit of this tonight before Cliff's on. And then we have a couple people in the studio, and they can feel free to speak up and speak out on any of the subjects because they were there last Thursday. They saw these speakers. We have Norm in the studio and Chet. Before I go into this, Chet, Norm, you want to say anything before we go any further? Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Paul. I was really impressed with this meeting we had a week ago in Washington, by all the information. One in particular was Zabi Diamond, a black African who came to this country, worked as a dishwasher in restaurants, and became a person that benefited from the true free enterprise system of our country. And he, through his study, recognized that there were people plotting to destroy the economic fiber of this country. And we saw this happening in the year 2008, 2009, when many people lost thousands of dollars in their pension funds. I talked to a fellow today, he lost $1 million during that meltdown. And what we learned in this meeting was there is such thing as short traders in these hedge funds who depressed the stock market in such a way that they would sell high and buy low, where they made lots of money, and they robbed everybody else of their hard-earned money that they had put into those stocks. And we know how Bear Stearns fell. We know how Lehman Brothers fell. We know how the hedge funds fell. And then we know how the stock market fell. And you wonder why this happened. I'm convinced that it was the restriction of those laws that were put in place in 1929 that held in place 79 years, that these looters who are against our capitalist system robbed the American people. And the very people that put these rules in place are in the Obama administration now, it's my understanding. Now, this is a book that I'm getting this information from the Wizards of Wall Street, and the author was at the meeting. And I've been, studying this about the removal of these rules, the removal of what they call the uptick rule, so that a person can, without owning a stock, sell it and depress the market by mere fact that he puts so many sell orders in and depresses that stock to the point that it depressed the whole stock market and people lost thousands of dollars. You wonder what caused the economic collapse? I think this was the key. That's what impressed me about last week's meeting that I didn't know about before. And it's hard to believe. And, of course, the people that did this are pointing the finger in other directions. And that's why it's so deceptive, because of the very people in our government and the very people surrounding the hedge fund short sellers, i.e. George Soros, and all the people that he's surrounded in the Obama administration.
That's a good point. And another thing we learned, all three of us learned, and everybody that went down to D.C. last week to Cliff Kincaid's event at the National Press Club, is that these protesters on Wall Street. These protesters in Washington, D.C., and some of the other groups around the country, mainly focused on D.C. and Wall Street now, they don't know what they're doing. They're naive, and they're being used by the liberal left as cannon fodder. And unfortunately, they think that the problem is the capitalists, the people that are pro-American, pro-free enterprise on Wall Street. And we don't want to go into too much more detail today because we discussed a lot of this on Monday's show. If you want more information about what Chet just talked about, you can go ahead right now. In fact, go to our new YouTube channel. It's the Schiffer Report on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, Google search the Schiffer Report, or Google search the Schiffer Report on YouTube, and you'll find last Monday's show, part one of it at least right now, where Chet outlined a lot of this information. So we have a YouTube version of this program. And again, you're listening to the Schiffer Report, and today we're exposing that who's behind these protests on Washington, D.C., on Wall Street, is George Soros. These are avowed Marxist-Leninists. They're communists who have tricked or fooled or misled these people into thinking the problem with our country since 2008 is the Republicans, is the capitalists, is the people who believe in the American way, when in fact it's the bad people on Wall Street, as we pointed out Monday, that are targeting the good people on Wall Street. I know this sounds confusing, and it's not what you hear from the establishment media, but the establishment media, except for Fox News, is backed by George Soros, and you guys both know that George Soros is at war with Fox News. We have a caller on the line. Before we get to him, Norm, do you want to interject anything? You were there at this conference last week, and I want people to know that this information that we have in our hands, that we brought back with us, is hard-hitting. And if most of the American people knew what we know now, I think there'd be a real Occupy America movement standing up against the real bad guys.
I remember Mr. Loudon made a statement about the country he's from, which is New Zealand. And he talked that if America would happen to fail, if we go down from the enemies within, it would just take one phone call to the leaders of his country, and they would go down with us. The thing that impressed me, Roy, was at the end of his talk, he said, we can't quit. The world is relying on the U.S. The Tea Parties must stay involved. And what's on the line? Liberty, freedom, and personal property. He said, we must restore the Constitution of the Republic.
And that speaker, Trevor Loudon from New Zealand, who has the new book out called Barack Obama, The Enemies Within. It's close to 600-page book. We're still going through it now. We hope to have Trevor on next week. Even though he's not an American citizen, he's more American and more patriotic than most people in this country who seem to be asleep at the switch and, quite frankly, are full of apathy. And then we have the Christians out there who believe we should not be involved. Well, I'm telling you, folks, we were there. And we have a caller on the line now who was there in Washington, D.C., Bob Bonheimer of the Stark County Tea Party Patriots. We are in big trouble. And if you've been tuning in at all the past 7 months, on and off even, to this program, the Schiffer Report, what I've been telling you about Barack Obama and his communist affiliations and the people in his past that are world travelers, so to speak, with the Communist Party members and the Communist Party USA, you would be horrified if you saw the information we saw down there. This is a wake-up cry. If you're a Christian that reads the Old Testament, remember Jeremiah when he used to cry out against the evil that the people in Israel were doing, and he knew God's judgment was going to rain down hard. He actually cried and wept. He was called the weeping prophet because people wouldn't listen to him. Well, that's how we feel here, Chet, Norm, and myself. We're doing this radio broadcast tonight because we're crying out for this country. We have enemies within the United States who are trying to destroy us from within. And those enemies mainly are George Soros and his billions and Barack Obama and his entire administration. And basically you can say that George Soros has bought and paid for the entire Democratic Party. We're going to take this call real quick. Bob, welcome to the Schiffer Report.
Hey, Paul. How you doing this evening?
Well, pretty good. Considering all this other bad news, we're keeping in good spirits, though.
There you go.
How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. I had a little thing go on today, and I wanted to tell you about it. I actually had a little meeting with some young people today. Young people, I mean, 20s to early 30s. We had a half a dozen people there, and I was meeting with them, and I got into a discussion earlier in the week with one young lady, and she was, she's a smart kid, but I said something to her about, with these issues coming up next week and all that kind of stuff. And she said, "What do you mean?" And it's like, oh my gosh. So today I had a little meeting with this bunch of young people and kind of shared with them some of the issue stuff. And it's absolutely amazing. Those of us that obviously went to the thing last week, we consider ourselves fairly educated, and we got so much more out of this meeting than today. Meeting with these young people, I was amazed how many of these young people don't even know what Obamacare is and what it's slated for us. The whole idea of what we have to do as patriots to educate these younger people who have never had the opportunity to understand, all they know about the Constitution is it's a piece of paper from a long time ago, and they don't even understand where we're headed. And it scares me to think this, but I spent about an hour with these people today, and then just sharing them some of the things I know about, some of the things that my Tea Party group are doing, and just the positions on some of the issues, and trying to explain to them the pros and cons of each issue, just to educate. And it's so nice to see what we did last week and how much of an education we got. And now it's our job to go ahead and take these kind of things and share them with the people around us, because it's, other than preaching to the choir like we do so much, we've really got a full-time job on our hands when it comes to getting these other people around us that don't pay attention to what goes on. We have a duty to enlighten them to what we're facing.
You're absolutely right. And when we look at the crowd that showed up, I'd say, 60, 70 people were there at Cliff's event in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club. This was the best political presentation I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because Cliff's going to be on the program here in 10 minutes. I've been going to Washington, D.C. and lobbying and doing a lot of stuff for the radio broadcast that I've had throughout the years. And I've never seen a more powerful, profound, and more relevant day-long seminar as what we three here experienced last week in Washington, D.C. It was professional, heavily documented. The PowerPoint presentations were superb, were impeccable, and they laid out the groundwork and all the facts about Obama's communist associations, how they're a communist within this administration, willfully, purposely destroying this country, and where all of the money is coming from. And a major source of money, as we've been talking, is George Soros. I would say he was one of the worst people in the world now, and one of the most dangerous threats to our freedom in this country. And we got to do something about it. Again, visit Cliff Kincaid's newest website. He's got a few of them out there, but visit www.sorosfiles.com. It is filled with an extensive amount of documentation proving our thesis tonight. And the next couple of weeks we'll be focusing in on this. Obama's master, his puppet master, George Soros, supporting all of America's enemies at home and abroad. He's pro-abortion. He's radically pro-euthanasia and mercy killing. He's for the legalization of drugs. He's anti-Israel, pro-Muslim. He wants to destroy the defenses of the United States of America. This guy has every base covered, Chet and Norm. Every base. I don't think there's a more powerful man in this country or in the world. And he spends his money. Folks, he's got to be stopped. And we're here to educate in the best way we can. And Cliff Kincade, who is the expert of experts on all of this, we're glad he's going to be on the show tonight at 7. Well, Bob, are you still there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're going to slip into a commercial break here. We'll probably in about 3 minutes. But if you want, you can stay on the line. We got somebody else calling in, or you can call back when Cliff's on. Your choice.
Yeah, let me get back to you. Let somebody else get a few words in. That'd be great.
Okay, fantastic, Bob. Hope to hear back from you. Bob Bonheimer, the head of the Stark County Tea Party Patriots. Vaughn will probably take that commercial break at about 7, right before Cliff's on. The phone lines are open, 330-492-6881. If you're listening to the Tuscarawas County area, call us now, 330-874-2424. Also, by the way, very quickly, you can also hear the Schiffer Report every Monday and Thursday evenings when it's on live here at WNPQ, 6:30 8 p.m. Go to, on audio stream, on the internet, go to thelight959.com. A lot of our listeners do listen on the internet. So the audio streaming live is at thelight959.com. And also we have now a new addition to the Schiffer Report. My good friend Larry Boltz, who was my first producer when I first got on radio. Chet, you remember him when we did radio back in the late 80s on the old WTOF. Well, Larry Boltz, who we haven't seen in 20 years, free of charge as a love offering because he believes in our show, has been putting together, he takes every one of these broadcasts and turns them into a YouTube video. And it's adding some really hard-hitting pictures. We go now to Vicki. Welcome to the Schiffer Report, Vicki. Thanks for the call.
Oh, thank you. Well, I had just two quick little things to share. First of all, I just had dinner with my mother, and she asked how my trip to D.C. was and what was it all about. And I said, well, they were exposing George Soros. And keep in mind, my mother loves Obama.
Yeah.
She said, well, who's George Soros? And I just looked at her, and I knew it would bring up, a little uncomfortableness. And I said, well, Mom, he's a Hungarian Jew that's a communist. And he controls Obama, and Obama's his puppet. And she looked at me and said, I don't want to hear anything else about it, Vicki. Please don't start. And, this is the stuff that's going on out there. People don't know about him. She says, well, if people don't know, then he must not be that bad of a guy because they put him on the news, Vicki. What are you getting involved in?
Wow.
And it's just so frustrating out here to try and talk to family and friends about what reality is because the media has done, a superb job of becoming the best liars around. So just wanted to share that. And then real quickly, I'd like to also just read 3 verses of scripture from Psalm 27.
Go ahead.
And it has to do with our enemies, which George Soros and all of these other associates are. And it says, the Lord is my light and my strength, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise up against me, in this will I be confident. And it's just a reminder to all of, you guys there at the radio station, this Christian radio station, that we have a great God that we serve that knows exactly what's going on today. And I believe he's challenging us at this time to stand firm, hold on to his word, light up the cross of Jesus Christ in our lives, and come against these enemies. And I just want to encourage any of the listeners to continue to pray for protection for people like you, Paul, and those that you put on the show, like Cliff Kincade, that are doing just that. We're at our battle here in America when our soldiers are over there across in different lands. And I just want to praise you for the great job you're doing. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the call and the encouragement. I appreciate that. And we definitely need prayer cover for stepping out like this, I think. And, we've got to do this. Somebody's got to do this. And I know that there are thousands of people like us out there who are in their own little way trying to get out this information. But the thing that we do have an advantage over is knowledge and wisdom. We just came back from this conference last Thursday that Cliff Kincade put on in D.C. And, folks, I'm not exaggerating. This information on Obama's communist connections, a lot of the people that spoke, they not only experts on George Soros, but I'll give you an example. We'll talk about Brandon Darby. He will be on the show within a week or two. Brandon Darby was an informant for the FBI. He infiltrated some of these liberal groups, including the groups that are protesting in D.C. and on Wall Street. He's somebody else that knows what's going on from experience, not just book knowledge. Larry Grathwohl, he is an Army veteran who worked for the FBI and infiltrated the communist Weather Underground terrorist group in the 70s, and he got to know personally and very well. He got to know Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, who were leaders of this terrorist group, and that's the kind of stuff we found out from Cliff Kincade at this excellent Suburb conference. And again, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, Cliff Kincade, who's the president of Accuracy in Media, and he's with USA Survival. Remember to check out his newest website, www.sorosfiles.com. Folks, this is the motherlode of information on who is destroying these United States of America from within. We'll be right back. That are here in the studio today walked away from Cliff Kincaid's conference last Thursday, brought back with us, loaded up with wisdom and knowledge, information. That knowledge is very valuable in this fight. And we know a lot about George Soros, the money man behind the scenes that's financing the destruction of the United States of America. He controls a lot of media entities. He pumps money into all of the different TV stations out there. He pumps money into radical pro-abortion, pro-homosexual groups. He's out there trying to destroy our nation's defenses, and millions of dollars are being thrown around to over 150 527 groups and think tanks and 501c3s with the ultimate agenda to destroy capitalism. And I can think of no better expert on this subject than our guest tonight, Cliff Kincade, who put this conference together that we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. Welcome back to the Schiffer Report, Cliff.
Paul, great to be with you, and thank you and Vicki and all the rest of your fans and supporters and Tea Party members who came all the way from Ohio for our conference last Thursday.
Well, we have two of them in the studio with us. Chet, you met him. Norm, he's also with us. Bob Bonheimer will probably be calling back in again. There's so much information here that we brought back from your wonderful conference that I'm going to dedicate the next 2 weeks at least of the Schiffer Report, interviewing some of the people that you put on your panel, including Brandon Darby and the author Trevor Loudon, who has that excellent blog. I encourage people to Google search Trevor Loudon. Very quickly, can you give people a quick thumbnail summary of the speakers last Thursday at your event and what the theme was? Go ahead.
The theme, generally speaking, was the influence and role of multi-billionaire George Soros in politics and social unrest in the United States today. Really, the basis for a revolutionary situation that we saw unfold in Oakland, California last night with the so-called Occupy Oakland protesters closing down a major port in the United States and then engaging in systematic violence. 80 arrests were made, 5 civilians, 3 police officers injured. According to the most reliable reports in downtown Oakland, there was broken glass, graffiti, debris covering almost every surface near the corner of 14th and Broadway. And that's an area in Oakland that I've been to. It's a very radical area, and some of this was to be expected, but the difference is we've got somebody like a George Soros who's underwriting some of these groups, staging the violence, and we've got, of course, the President of the United States himself who has embraced the protests and encourages this kind of thing, and we have nobody in the media who's demanding that the president and the White House step back from their open, flat-out endorsement of this revolutionary movement in the United States. We're dealing with a situation where it has now turned into riots, and this could spread to other major cities in the United States.
One of the focuses of your new website, Sorosfiles.com and usasurvival.org, and this article, 40-page in length, that you wrote recently and posted up there on Sorosfiles.com, is something called Obama's Master, George Soros, Supporting America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. And you detail in these 40 pages or so a lot of what you spoke on last Thursday at the National Press Club about some of the major people involved with George Soros's Open Society organization. Mm-hmm. These are people that have a reputation of hanging around communists, affiliating and associating with the Communist Party USA today. And you can just tell the listening audience, in case there's skeptics out there, how alive and well that group is. Tell us a little bit about some of these nefarious characters, their past background, the trips they made to Cuba and Vietnam, and just how dangerous these folks are.
Well, certainly what we've seen happening with this Occupy Wall Street movement, I think, has convinced most people by now that communism is not dead. These protesters, for the most part, are Marxists or communists. Some are anarchists. But they do believe in a revolutionary socialism. They want to overthrow our system of government, and they have the backing of this mega-rich atheist billionaire, George Soros, in bringing this about. And some of those reports we distributed had a quote from Soros himself, who said that he believes the major danger to the world today comes from capitalism and not communism. I mean, this is his mentality, and as a result, it's not really that surprising, Paul, to find out that Soros is pouring tons of money into groups that we used to consider part of the international communist movement. And some of these are legal or lawyer groups like the National Lawyers Guild, once an identified Communist Party front, the Center for Constitutional Rights, which of course sounds good, but it's a radical, pro-terrorist, pro-communist group. I mean, we can go down the list. One of the groups I focused on in my introductory remarks at the conference, and by the way, we're going to have videos of all the speeches up hopefully early next week, is a group based in D.C. called the Alliance for Global Justice, which is behind the group that's occupying Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., just around the corner from the National Press Club, where we held our conference on October 27th. And this group, also funded by Soros, is a headquarters for other organizations like Code Pink, International Answer, the Nicaragua Solidarity Movement. All of these are Marxist or communist groups. And so it's fascinating, and we have documented it in some detail, and we'll continue to do so, that we've got this huge multi-billionaire, George Soros, worth about $22 billion. I mean, he made $8 billion alone last year, is basically financing communist and Marxist groups in the United States, including those behind the violence in Oakland over the weekend.
Cliff, I was particularly interested in Zombie Diamond, and he alleges that the whole meltdown that we had economically in 2008, where people lost millions, and I should say trillions of dollars in their CDs and in the retirement pension funds, seems to be attributed to these, what they call hedge fund short sellers, who lobbied with their Managed Funds Association through the administration and got the uptick rule removed, where they could sell without owning a stock and drive it down by force of just the volume that they sold, and then bought it back at a lower rate, and everyone else lost money. Is this a real entity in your opinion? Is this really what happened?
I'm convinced of what Zuby Diamond said. Now, Zuby Diamond was one of several speakers, and I thought he was excellent because of his background, his knowledge, and the fact that he really addressed head-on the reasons for our economic crisis. And what he says, it's so important to point this out, that there is a good Wall Street and a bad Wall Street. There are good people on Wall Street, some of them bankers, some of them just businessmen, who are trying to make America work. They're trying to make the capitalistic system go. But there are others, the bad Wall Street, Zuby Diamond calls them, like Soros, who runs a hedge fund. Now, these hedge funds are not like ordinary businesses. Hedge funds exist to manipulate currencies and profit from calamities in countries and globally. And that's what Soros himself did. That's how he got rich. He didn't make anything. He never produced anything like a Steve Jobs. All Soros did throughout his career, and he still does this, is exploit catastrophes, drive stocks down, then profit from them, profit from the loss of currencies or the loss in value of currencies. He's the guy who is known as the guy who broke the Bank of England and made $1 billion when the British pound declined in value. And now he's making money from the decline of the United States. And these hedge fund short sellers are, I believe, as Zuby says, predators. And they are stealing and looting from the economy and from ordinary people. They were behind the housing market collapse in September of 2008, which is still ongoing. I mean, we just heard today that the government mortgage companies are asking for billions and billions of more dollars to bail them out after some of their top executives have just gotten millions in bonuses. You know, meanwhile, you and me, ordinary Americans, have either lost our homes or seen the value of our homes decline by 10, 15, 20% or more. And this is because, I submit, and Zuby Diamond, I think, makes an excellent case, because of the hedge fund short sellers who have decimated the capital from capitalism. And that's why I think his speech was so important to understand and put into context who these people are in the Managed Funds Association. This is the umbrella group, the lobbying arm of the hedge fund short sellers. And Zuby, we maybe can't get into it all now, but Zuby sets forth a 7-point program or plan to reinstate the safeguards for our invested capital, because it just stands to reason you can't have capitalism unless you can protect your capital. And one point I made in my remarks to the conference was that Marxism essentially it's the first plank of the Communist Manifesto, the abolition of private property. Yes. And capitalism means private property. So if you can't protect your property, if you don't have the rule of law protecting your property, preventing them from interfering with the markets, driving the stocks up or down, then you don't have capitalism.
Cliff, there's one interesting other aspect to his book, Wizards of Wall Street, and that is the very people that stole the chickens in the hen house were hired to come back and guard the hen house, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
He had the head of his, Barack Obama's head of his transitional team was a fellow named John Podesta, if you recall.
Yeah.
And he apparently was instrumental in being involved with these Managed Funds Association, lobbying to get these changes. But then he put people in office through his influence, people like Tim Geithner, who's head of Treasurer, and this Mary Shapiro, who's the head of the SEC, so that they will make sure that these free hand that these people have in depressing the market, they still have the rules to continue to do so. Do you notice that in his book?
Yes. Well, basically, Zuby is down on not only the Obama administration in this regard, but the previous George Bush administration and Democrats and Republicans alike, because they're all failing to grasp, or maybe they don't want to, because they don't want to go up against the immense financial power of the hedge funds. The reason for the economic crisis and how to get out of it. It's really not that complicated. And by the way, although we don't have the videos up on our Soros-Files.com site, we do have the remarks of Zuby Diamond. I've already posted up on the site, and it's titled "George Soros is the Money Behind Barack Obama."
Now, which of your websites will all of these speeches that we saw last Thursday at your event at the National Press Club, the Soros-Files.com or USA Survival?
Soros-Files.com will include all of those. And then, by the way, we already have some what I call pre-conference videos of all of the speakers except for Zuby Diamond. Speakers like Larry Grathwohl, Brandon Darby, Tina Trent, and myself and others. So, look, these are very complicated and complex matters, and I'm not here as a financial expert myself. I don't even. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I don't even balance my own checkbook. I leave that to my wife. But that's why I had somebody like a Zuby Diamond come to the conference, and I think everybody really enjoyed his talk. It was frightening, but they appreciated it, because here's a guy who is an African immigrant, came to this country with very little, began at a restaurant, invested, saved his money, bought a restaurant chain, became successful, then became an expert on Wall Street and learned how to do trades and make additional monies there, and he's very successful. And what he is the American dream in action, the Horatio Alger story, and that's why he's so passionate about this whole thing and why it's so necessary to safeguard our system. And I mean, he lays it out. You can read his speech right now. It's up on the website, and his 7-point plan for getting us out of this horrible debacle. But he's. I think you gentlemen also have to acknowledge that he was very pointed in his remarks about Obama. I remember one notable phrase from his speech was that Obama is Louis Farrakhan and Karl Marx rolled into one. And Zuby Diamond said directly, he believes Barack Obama is a Muslim.
Cliff, hold on to your thought. We're going to slide into a quick commercial break. How long can you stay with us? Because I know we want to talk a little bit more about your conference last week that we've been, we're attending. But also, you have some new information also since then that you've been putting together, reporting on the past 2 days. So you can give us another 15, 20 minutes.
Be happy to.
Okay. You're listening to the Schiffer Report, heard here on WNPQ. We'll be right back after this commercial break with Cliff Kincaid, who heads up Accuracy in Media, USA Survival. Their website is usasurvival.org. And also check out the newest website he put out pertaining to this threat from George Soros, the guy that's the puppet master behind Barack Hussein Obama. That website is Soros-Files.com. We'll be right back.